We're going to do an update now.
It's just up now.
Cool. Right, we'll kick off with the karakia this morning. Mā te whakarongo, mā te kōrero, mā te nākau, mā te wairua, mā te manaki mai, mā te manaki atu, ka puawai, te maramatanga, tihei, Māori order. Through listening, through talking, from the heart, from the spirit, through giving and receiving respect, understanding will bloom. This is the essence of life. Welcome along, everybody, today to the fantastic day out in Waikaia. So great to be out in the community again and having our meeting in this great spot. And, yeah, Mother Nature's put it on for us today, and I challenge anyone to find another place in Southland or New Zealand with as many A's and I's in the town name. It's great to be here, and a special welcome along to our fellow board chairs, Michael Weston, Greg Taylor, and Richard Buxton and Colin as well. So we've got four board chairs here, so great to have you guys here as well. Fiona's pointed to where the toilets are. Just a reminder, if we can please have our phones on silent, and that these proceedings are being recorded for the purpose of live video, both live streaming and downloading. So by remaining in this meeting, you can see it being filmed for viewing by the public. Okay, so I'll call for apologies. We've got Councillor Chamberlain online behind us.
Yep. Councillor Rudden call for lateness.
Councillor Rudden call for lateness. Everyone else is here.
Yep.
Can I have a mover for that, please? I'll move that. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Beaufort. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? That's carried. Do we have any leave of absence coming up? There being none. I don't think anyone's going to have a conflict of interest, but I'll just check. There being none, no extraordinary urgent items, and there are no minutes to confirm, and there is no public participation. So our first report is the Mayor's report on page 7 of your agenda. Quite a few pages in there, which I'll take as read. And before I hand over to the board chairs, I'll just ask if there's any questions or anything on the Mayor's report, or if anyone wants any updates on anything that's in there. Yeah, Councillor Grant.
Your Worship, I can just provide a very short update on the collective marine project. Website development has started, so non-marketing we're engaged to help in that space. So this will mean that Road Liquor has its own dedicated website rather than going through an ICC website, and it's got a planned completion date for on the 5th. So that should be also, as part of ICC's LTP, that's also submitted to their LTP. Just supporting the social wellbeing initiatives that they've implemented.
I'll just do a couple of updates on some of the things that I've been up to, especially was one that's quite relevant to this area. It's got Adlasa on-site visit there, which was actually having a look at some of our bridges with gravel in conjunction with Councillor Wilson, the Adlasa Community Board, and we had staff from both ourselves and Environment Southland and one of their councillors there as well. So we were looking at the gravel issues with the bridges around here. So there's 3 bridges that we looked at. One which is quite problematic with a big build-up of gravel, one that's had gravel removed that's doing a really good job, and another one that was in the process of having gravel removed for using on the roads locally. So it was quite a good comparison between the 3 different bridges in the same area, and it was good to have both councils kind of working collaboratively there towards how we can come up with a solution. So that was a good day out, a windy day out, but a good day out. And LG&Z, there's quite a big report in there, and you'll see in there that they're looking at sort of communicating with councils a lot more from that national council perspective. So one thing we can potentially do is get Mayor Cadogan from Central Otago, who's our rep on National Council, to maybe come and present this report at a future meeting to answer any questions that we might have from what they're up to. I've been to a couple of conferences lately, and they're doing a lot of work, as you would have read there, around building on relationships with the new government, coming up with initiatives that we need to do, looking at that. There's going to be, for the city regional deals, a framework sort of put together. So looking at that and making sure that we're sort of front footing as much as we can as a sector, and feeding into as much of local government's work. There's a transport forum that you'll see that I've asked to become a part of. The membership of it was fairly North Island heavy. I think it went as far down as Christchurch, but with our roading situation, I thought we needed to have a voice in there. So I've asked to go on there and given a whole lot of our information into that as well. Yeah, was there anything else anyone wanted to add before I hand over to the sorry, Councillor Menzies and Councillor Duffy?
Just comment around the Mountain Cycle Trail Trust. There'll be a presentation, I think, at the next meeting on the 1st of May, just to update everybody on that.
Councillor Duffy?
Just on the Southland Regional Heritage Committee, we met 3 weeks ago. Margie stepped in as Christine wasn't available. So just a few things there. One is Project Arc has sort of been renamed and relaunched in a different manner. One of the reasons is that it's been very successful attracting outside funding from lotteries and elsewhere, and you sort of can't keep going back with the same name, as it were. So the project will continue, but in slightly different format. And also lotteries funding, which we've been well supported by, has been cut by 50%. So we're looking to write letters and look for support that be looked for. And we've got a meeting coming up shortly for grants, twice yearly grants applications.
Thank you.
Oh, and the heads of agreement too, coming out in 2025, but that's talk about that.
Cool, thank you, Paul. And we've got the other report in there for the George Regional Climate Change Committee. Was there anything you wanted to talk to that, Matt, or?
I mean, the key points is that the phase 1 document is out for consultation through ES. That closes 8th of May. SDC staff have also been going to community boards and discussing with those community boards about the report and work stream and encouraging submissions to be made. And then the phase 2 workshops are continuing as is, and the first get brains together and start talking about pragmatic ideas in terms of that phase 2 adaptation plan. There's been the first workshop on that was quite cool to see how ideas can come together, and an example would be identifying the existing Enviro schools project that ES administer, which is a shared thing that all councils put in on as a good mechanism for meeting some of those aspirations like communications, which was really started with. So, and also Great South now sitting at that table in those workshops. Their knowledge of housing needs and emissions and all of that is really valuable to have. And the other thing that's happening is staff are preparing a pros and cons list between maybe formalising that working group into a more formalised joint committee. It's been identified that the working group's trying to find areas of collaboration between the entities involved in that climate change working group. But if the group doesn't have some type of formal way to recommend to those entities on doing something once the collaborative project is actually identified, then what's the point? So just looking at maybe how to formalise that, and that's a conversation. Any questions on that?
And you're going to be sitting on the hearings panel from the meeting as well?
Hearings panel is tentatively, so it closes 8th of May, and then it's steps. I don't have it right on me, but the hearing panels, there's 2 tentative dates for that coming up in May, I believe. Yeah.
Through you, Worship. Councillor Wilson, just a question. Do you have an opinion around the climate change strategy submissions in terms of community boards making the submissions as community boards as well as individuals? Do you have any?
Like a personal opinion or?
No?
I mean, like my opinion, and I've expressed it to the Northern Board and the Atlassian Board, is the opportunity to, this is out for consultation, and it's a good opportunity for community boards to work with their communities to encourage that consultation process to work and be engaged with. That's how you get a good outcome. And I've also said it'd be great for community boards to make their own submissions, because it also speaks to the power of what community boards can achieve, and be a voice for their community. The question of, does a community board submission mean any more than an individual's submission? I don't know. I don't know if, to put that in context, I don't know whether a council submission to a central government consultation process has any more validation than an individual submission. But my opinion is engage, submit whatever your beliefs or thoughts on those aspirations or the work stream or climate change. Yeah.
Well, I mean, either way, do you think it's good that, or it's positive that a community board should put forward a submission?
I believe it, yeah.
Thank you.
That's good. Cool. Well, on that note, it's quite fitting when we're out in the community that we've got 4 of our community board chairs here to speak to us. So I'll hand over to the Mayor of Ardlassa, Richard Parks, and to kick off first.
It's right. Thanks, Rob. I'll just sort of give you a quick overview of what's going on around the Ardlassa area. Probably we've already touched on it today, but the gravity, there's a lot of talk about it, build up around the bridges and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty top, high on top of it. We've got a huge amount of projects going on as a board. We've sort of purposely decided to do that the way the climate is at the moment, the economic climate. But we are undertaking a lighting project around the Riversdale Community Hall. Lighting it at night is very poor. When the hall's not in use, they only light it when they are there. So, but that's the community toilets. So we're undertaking to fix that issue. We've been looking into it for some time, but it's slowly happening. It's subdivision, or the ability to do a subdivision in Kruger Street and Balfour. Some sections there are reserved that the community have approached us and want us to look into the ability to make available to build on. The group in Riversdale that have made contact with us and are keen to do some beautification projects around the main street and the community centre and the shops. So we've sort of started that ball rolling. We're also looking at doing a wee bit of spatial planning for the Riversdale Township, and maybe more sections available there, or what is available to be expanded. And yeah, just probably an overview on the last few years, some of the projects we've undertaken. Most of them have been done through supporting groups. We've sort of opened the door and got permission to get the projects underway, and then handed them across. Examples of that, obviously the Waikato Trails Trust, which we're looking at today. The Balfour Lions have been really good in their township with the pump track, half basketball court, and Waikato have also got an arts trail trust that's starting up. I think they'll purchase the sculpture that's going in over at the pump track shortly. Riversdale Community Gardens has been a good project. So yeah, it's been a really good way of getting projects happening without actually having to manage them yourself, just standing them all.
Yeah, I think this whole area is a really good example of that kind of community-led development approach. And I've heard comments from people already today looking around Waikato, how well kept and how great the village is actually looking. And I just replied, it always looks like this, but the communities around here take real pride in their space, and they're not afraid to get up and get things done, and it's good to see council can actually support some of those ventures as well. Are there any questions from the floor for Richard? Yes.
Thanks, Richard. Just a question on that Kruger Street development, is that specifically to try and meet the goal of actually getting some more houses into Belfast?
Yes, there isn't a lot of empty sections in Balfour, and there are people looking to build in the township that it's not really an option. There is nothing to build, so the sections available. So there is it's an old, I think originally it's railway siding. It's just been made into reserve. And yeah, so it's good that more facing right off the main road, like the sewage goes right past it, the water goes right past it, so it should be relatively easy. Yeah, the legal boss just looking at the moment because we want to ensure really that it does get bought for development, not just sitting the way it is. So yeah, no, it's really.
We'll go have a look at that today as well, and actually go stand on the site and have a look. Christine?
Thank you. Just a comment. It might also just provide us with the opportunity through that spatial planning to look elsewhere where there's other events in our community and what to do with it as well. Yeah, so watching of interest.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Richard. Next on our list is Greg from the Northern Community Board.
Morning, everybody. It's great to make venue to the meeting, so a short trip for us to come over. Update since my last mayor's report from the Northern Community Board. We've had some progress on lights and footpaths, which was mentioned in the last my last report, and it has been outstanding for a couple of years. So somebody got behind that, and thanks very much. And I'll just say, Kevin, you were a big push there, so thank you. Some of the things that have happened since then. Jim Guyton received a Community Service Award, which was well received. The Mosburn public toilets are in the process of being planned upgrade, which is good. Athol, the Sober Street opening was a success, and the Sober family are very appreciative of the recognition they've had. They've been in the area for over 150 years. Some years would know ex-Sober was an ex-All Black, and the Sober family's been a really big part of the Athol community, so it was nice there. Garston's getting some new display interpretation panels and a new area put in. Lumsden, well, last time I was here, sort of cap in hand asking for sign off on some funding that we needed to get the Lumsden playground over the line. And thank you, that did happen. So that was councillors had to sign off from the mayor for that. So thank you very much. The playground's now open and compliant, and being well received by locals and visitors. So it's been a great asset. Unfortunately, the Lumsden toilets have been getting some vandalism over the last few months, and we're looking at it cameras for deterrence or identification. That's only really just come to light as an option, which is being supported by the local police, who would also like to see cameras in Main Street for vehicle identification, which I think we will fully support, but we'll look for funding options and see where the South District Council staff get to on that one for us. We have coming up very shortly the opening of the Northern Southland helipad. So this is Scott will be doing a cut the ribbon, I hope. 11 o'clock Sunday the 28th of April. So this has been a big project and behind the scenes a lot of work. So it's really good to see it come to fruition and this is a great community asset. It's got across the line, and so 11 o'clock Sunday, 28th of April, everybody's invited. Come bring the kids and have a play on the playground afterwards. I think it's a so that's something to look forward to. Just to finish off, we've had a really nice positive comment from a family from Oxford in England. I just thought I'd read out to you. So New Zealand is rightly world famous for many things, but my favourite is Lumsden. The civic pride and vision on show there is inspiring. I stopped overnight with my kids in 2 camper vans. We just keep exploring and shopping in the town. A lovely lady at the craft shop also showed us the museum, which richly deserves the ongoing effort. All visitors we met were singing similar praises. By exporting this kind of pride, you are spreading your example to all the homelands. So that was a nice, positive feedback that I'd share with you. Yeah, so outside of that, Councillor Wilson's got a few bit going on with some roading and some sewage, stormwater. I won't jump in on that one, because that'll take another half hour. So, anybody's got questions?
Thanks, Greg. It's a great update, and I think Councillor O'Brien's jumping in for the question.
Jumping right in, through your worship. Well done on the report, Greg. Just a question around the vandalism with the toilets, and trying to come up with solutions in the form of cameras and funding and all that sort of carry on. My understanding is that Lumsden historically almost had a sort of a person who would go around the that central part of Lumsden and almost sort of keep an eye on those sorts of things. Do you still have that person? And if not, what is the appetite for Lumsden maybe trying to bring someone in to fill that role?
Well, we don't have that person because he passed away, unfortunately, but he did do a great job. Not that he would be out in the night when vandalism was happening, but he would communicate a lot of stuff through the campers and I'm just, the vandalism was about years ago, but we had a camping street and camping site approved and opened, it seemed to dissipate because of the people that were in the area. So it was, I dare say they vandals don't like it, they say. But it's just sort of reared its head again, and over the last 6 months, 4 or 5 attacks, I suppose. So, and I have talked to local police, and it's pretty keen for us to get cameras.
And have the local police been able to give you any indication of who the perpetrators may be, or any consistency involved with the vandalism?
Not at this stage.
I suspect it's happening in the early morning with people travelling through, partying in their cars. But we're also getting a lot of sign vandalism throughout Southland as well, and quite a lot in that sort of area as well. So it's probably potentially linked between the two, of needless wanton destruction of ratepayers' property. Councillor Lindsay.
Thank you for your report. We seem to have a focus on talking about toilets, unfortunately, but it's good to hear that the Mossburn one's been upgraded. My question is just in relation to, we now have increased tourist traffic coming through, so I guess that's we're seeing, I guess, the impact of that on the toilet. So presumably the one in Mossburn will address some of that in that area, and presumably no vandalism up around that.
They had a history of vandalism. They used to shut at nights.
Yes.
12 months ago, we decided to open it 24 hours, and it's okay.
Good.
So, and the Mosburn one's right in the, like the planning's been done and it's just really, waiting for the contract. And, so it's, you know, really advanced and it's not far away. Garston's also on the pipeline. It's quite a big, investigation to make sure they get the right situation there for Garston, so.
And that was my next question around Ethel, where things are at with Ethel, because
So I Ethel, sorry, it's also getting their toilet shifted to the front of the hall.
yes, I
Yeah, and so that would be one out of the backs. That
Yeah, you can sit down.
sorry, I didn't hear all that. So just
Sorry.
in terms of perhaps completion of those, is that a couple of years away? Or?
I don't think it's that far away, we can confirm, I'm sure we will go through this consent process, and as I understand, we're putting two, and so it'll be located at the front of the hall, and we've looked at parking issues and all of that, and both Ethel and Garston, we've had some sort of small town planning done to address that and to look at the toilet issues in Garston too.
I think it's excellent that, because it was a wee while since we've had an update around that and realised there's some significant issues in those places. Thank you.
Any further questions for Greg? No, thanks, Greg. Great report once again. Really appreciate it. So next on our list, we've got Colin Smith, the already board chair.
Morning, Mayor and councillors. Good to be here on a nice day. I'll start with Wallace Town. In our last workshop, the board received the results of the consultation around the redevelopment of Ellerslie Square, and which is a better off funding project. The staff are now preparing a report for the board so we can take their recommendations. Progress on our large street flip. It started and looks like ES won't get its finished before the winter. I don't know if he gets it now yet. Moving on to halls, the Dipton Hall upgrade has finally started, with heating and the lighting and the rewiring all but completed. There are currently some issues around the placement of the switchboard. Refurbishment of the toilets and the insulated painting has also started. The Otabury halls, I believe, in the final stages of the sale, just waiting on Dr. Signature Plate. In Winton, Mark is just handed me a note to say that she had a meeting with the Ivy Russell group yesterday and that all went well. The dedicated group can't. Proposed sports hub continues to gather momentum with a draft constitution and all but finalised. The group is currently looking for people who can be interested in coming board here. They put out a short video and had a public meeting a while ago, and it's well received. And those didn't have an inquiry from the media group wanting me to go along and talk to them about it. And I said, why would they want to talk to me about that? And they said, well, their grandchildren are playing sports, and they go home and see them, and they continue. The helipad committee has presented to the board on the project, which is the board is supporting. An on-site meeting is being scheduled to finalise the precise location of the legal process. Definitely again. They can't really lock into the fundraising until they get a site guaranteeing for that. Replacing the CTV cameras has been in the limelight lately. After the board dropped them out of the long-term plans, the community wasn't too happy about it. In our meeting last Monday night, we passed a motion to ask the CEO to request the staff to produce a report for the replacement. Our main focus right now is consulting with the community on the draft master concept plan for Great Road and Back Oval. In the area behind, drop-in assessments and meeting local residents this week. We'll conclude with the community meeting. The here is going to chair, I believe. I believe this is a great project for the community to get involved in. There's lots of opportunity here for that to happen. Long term. Right. Yeah.
Thanks, Colin. It's interesting, the fundraising for Helicade, where they rode the length of New Zealand to kick things off. A group of people, so that was impressive. That was very cool. We got any questions for Colin's report? Yeah, mate.
Thank you. It's real. Oh, just a wee brief on Voting Russell, and it's community led. And Rotary are going to be the umbrella for Voting Russell, and going forward, looking at interpretation panels in the reserve, working with Central Southland College, and they're going to build peace treats and youth predator reduction and working with the group within drinking games. We're also looking at weaker is looking at doing interpretation panels for a story walking in, which are going to be built around the natural look of Ivy Russell Reserve. They're also doing another weekend in July, and still working with Guy Johnson and putting in the Christmas stores like Wellington does, or Ivy Russell for one thing. So it's an amazing community pulling together as a group, and also we're talking about some disc golf, which is being used by the youth.
Any further questions for Colin? There being none, I'll hand over to Michael Weston from the Riviera.
Thank you, Worship. And we were due to have our community board public meeting last week, we didn't have a quorum, so it's next week. At Thornbury Hall, now interesting, we've created a right for our own backs only, and that we've come out and said use it or lose it in terms of ball uptake. You only get to use it 5 times a year. And the rating, I think, is about $149 a year per local ratepayer versus Colic Bay, which is about 29. So anyway, that's caused a lot of public outcry on social media and that, but no one's fronting. We've offered to have a meeting with them, but we'd already scheduled a meeting at Thornbury Hall. So I'll watch the space and we'll keep you posted. We've also got Mayor Rod coming out to do a community service award to the caretakers who have been here for over 30 years. So that's not far away. So 3rd of May. Locally in Bath Road, we've been working on a development proposal just to try and develop the whole estuary. It's a stunning environment there, but it's underutilised and represented. And one of our local residents is going to do a presentation next week on some of his ideas, which reflect a lot of what we've thought of as well. So that's going to be really good. Terramere Bay Playground is still our largest project at the moment, and it's frustrating at the moment because though we scheduled exactly what we wanted, and I don't think it's a staffing issue, the people we quoted come back with a $4 million proposal with you told them $250,000. Go figure, maybe things should quiet down in the recreation market. But we'll see what happens with that. We're keen to get it finished, but it looks like it'll drag into the next financial year, which I really want to see happen. Terramere Bay toilets are progressing slowly. They're looking stunning, and communications from District Council to put some updated photos, but it's going to be stunning when it happens. But this would be the most drawn out toilet build in history, I think. And perhaps we'll try and look at files. Building to community. You're all aware we did a PowerShell survey last year and proceeded, and we had 120 odd respondents, maybe we were more. About 50% all said they plotted down by the river at Koi Park, which is right opposite where they launched boats and then Anyway, I ended up on TV, must have been a quiet week, breakfast TV 3 weeks ago on a Monday morning and talking about power relocation. And ever since then, the people have been saying, you can't put it there. The amount of effort that went into surveying, I spoke publicly at places like Boothrow and all that. There's always a tire kicker somewhere, isn't there? I think we've all seen that this weekend about. But we're proceeding with where it's going. That's affecting really well. There probably will be a wee bit more adverse reaction because we aren't coating it in power this time. We're using automotive reflective paint. It actually looks like power and will have a much better longevity. And it's the maintenance costs that we really want to pull back. That seems to be the killer for everything in the community, doesn't it? It's not the building, the infrastructure, it's the maintenance ongoing. So we're very aware of that. It's amazing when you've got a few local people helping make your town look great. We've got a group of six ladies and bloke. I've got a ring to bloke if they said it does help. Who maintain the planters and that outside our main street, because we are fairly relatively compared to places like Gore or even Winton or whatever, it's a bit more sterile. So we're busy trying to see what we can do within budget or upset Whakatahi with being a state highway and stuff. So they're doing an excellent job, and we'll put in some more planters this year as well. And there's a small budget from the council that covers plants and stuff, and the ladies volunteer their time, which is great. Interestingly, those that drive past through Riverton past the estuary and that will notice there's a bit of landscaping work going on this week. But one of the residents contacted the community board and said, could we do something about it? We established that the planting never was an official council planting or anything. So we'd be having a working bee and gradually clearing to see you can actually view the vista of the estuary. The growth had got so high that you couldn't actually see the estuary from the road, and stunning sunsets along. So that's happening, and that's just really a two-person effort at the moment, but it's looking really good. Mountain bike tracks, we're late on that, but one of our board members, Joy Halliday, is focused on that. We hope to see something happen in the next 6 months. We talked to the high school and involved in there's some council land that we can hopefully get some permission. There's a lead farmer lead seed to use that, so we're keen to pursue that. So we're looking at that. Pollock Bay, that's our other called recreational jewel in the crown, really, but very end. And we're busy trying to come up with solutions for the surf. We'll probably hear a little about it. The killer is again the quote for an upgrade was horrendous, like 100,000 to repair, 200,000 to replace it. We're trying to source some local people who are experts in climate that. I'm sure we can do it, but it is taking its time. But brilliant community there, great progress there. Dean Mackay and others. Sarah Wilder with the hall and everything. So great wee community. Interesting, you mentioned cameras multiple times. There's a big upswell of people in Riverton wanting to see cameras too. And I'd almost say, it almost looks like there's a case to say, can we do some bulk filming for some of our regions? The local police and community patrol both want to see some cameras in Riverton at both ends of the town, because we're lucky we've only got one street in each end. You can't go any other way. And then with the power shell, they're saying maybe we should have a camera there too, just to prevent any wanton vandalism. So I'd like to put our hand up along with some of the other community people to say, look, this is something that needs to be addressed in the shorter term, maybe within a couple of years. Perhaps. Traffic management, I mentioned that last time with ANZAC coming up. It's going to be a killer. Will probably be our last year that we do the street parade. It's $3,500 for
community group discount fund. We kept it from again at Christmas as well. Last year, the community board approved ordinary funding for the local Christmas parade. Drastically forgotten. I'm told now you can't even move a car without getting a traffic management approved certified person. Don't forget, the bureaucracy's gone. It's not council's fault, but it's a real killer. There are no council staff now qualified to even assist us in that. Or try and come up with chief option. So it hits a lot of communities, and I don't have a solution. But it'd be great to find something rather than see these other communities disappear. Interestingly enough, and I must do some research on this, we've said Riverton really needs more rental accommodation. How bad? We have I think it's 1,640 people, and we've got about a 52% occupancy of something. The rest is B&Bs and groups, holiday homes. And of course, young people or workers can't work locally because they can't live locally. And, I see that there's a block of 4 flats just come on the market for 800K. They're looking pretty good next. I'm going to talk and see what we can do. I don't know what our budgets are for the council in terms of that. Would be a cheap way of getting some more housing for Riverton. It was just advertised last week. And again, developments, we're lucky. There's a lot of development going on. We must have about 50, 60 sections currently, about 4 developments, all fairly well progressed. Average sections 250 to 350,000. Not cheap, but they're actually looking pretty good. So hopefully, but again, they're going to be probably absentee owners. Central Otago, West County. Anyway, that's we're in good heart with the community board. We're certainly engaging with the community, and people are more and more contacting us all the time. So that part would have to say a tick for community engagement. Are they happy with everything? No, but you get that anyway. So we don't mind the interaction, and we're happy to front for it. So, yeah, that's us and the Riviera of the South. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And I think you've highlighted a couple of things in there, and one of them being the challenge of that consultation piece, because when the awareness comes out, you get a lot of the naysayers coming out saying that they don't want it, but the people that are actually for it don't often come out to say, well, we do want this, until you say that you're going to put it somewhere else, and then they come out. So that's one of the challenges that we kind of face collectively when we are trying to get that reflection. And I think also I was in the Riviera last weekend and strolling down. It was a day like this, and walking down Bath Road there, I can see the potential that you're talking about in that kind of undeveloped piece. And you look at Riverton now, and you look at some of those, like the Wanakas and those sorts of places, and you can kind of see a change coming in that space. And yeah, it's cool that the board's looking at that. And before I open up the questions, just an observation, and you pointed out yourself, there's a common thread. Like, we've all got very different little communities, but there's a common thread coming across all of them, between toilets, cameras, those sorts of things. And I think there is an opportunity to almost work collectively together on even getting some package deals on those sorts of things and stuff too, where we do have that commonality. But yeah, I'll hand over to the floor for questions. Councillor Menzies.
Thank you again for your report. There was discussion on Monday at the Regional Community Board. There was someone talking about specifications around cameras and things that need to be considered in relation to making the right purchase. And of course, Invercargill have been doing some work around this as well. So a Regional Community Board has called for that and is Colin. So I would assume there'll be an opportunity to look at those elements within the report and come back to say doing it 5 times or however many times.
Councillor Spragan and then Cole.
Yeah, I know the island's a little bit different in that we don't have a state highway, but in relation to Anzac Day and closing of the street, the local policeman uses his power to close it for that short term and put a detour in. And at that cost, it's nil.
It might happen in a few other.
Yeah, we've done it now for 3 or 4 years with no kickback from the community or anyone or from anyone else. It's just that he puts them in place. He talks to me and to the community board chairman. He has our support and he declares an emergency. A very short emergency.
Good potential work around there.
I'll check that out, tomorrow.
Colin and then Sarah.
You just come back to cameras, I had a couple of people from the Wallace down there who approached me with our cameras and we're meeting on Monday night, and they how to get cameras and how to fund them, and I told them the community on board with it, and you come and talk. I understand your issue around Anzac Day and cost of getting some closed road. You got a bridge in and over bridge out. Used to get the transport company breakdown on.
One advantage of one night. Councillor Granny?
Just looking at your street management again for Anzac. Another option might be the A2 road gaming list. When I think about the traffic management, things like media, and all the other requirements, in Tiana, that's one entity.
Oh, okay.
And your funds generally.
Just in terms of cameras too, Sarah, because you've got them in TR now and then they're going pretty well and they're actually doing their job, would you say?
Good. I haven't had any reports recently of vandalism, so since those cameras went up, I can't remember, but vandalism that we were getting reports, particularly next to paper plastic transaction.
You wish it. Thanks, Michael. That's a pretty interesting report you've got, and no doubt Riverton is just going to keep growing in some way, shape, or form. Can't get that figure of 250,000 versus 4 million in terms of that quote. That's very good. And so, with that in mind, at the start of your report and then near at the end of your report, with the motivation around that 60 sections, and it's market driven. The difference between that $250,000 investment and that potential $4 million quote, which I hope will never come to fruition, and the relative spend on the infrastructure required to support those 60 odd sections in form of water, wastewater, and all of the roading and all of that. Is that something that you're motivated to as a community board in order to investigate? And if so, how would you go about doing that?
We have asked some questions already about what investment back to like council does developers pay. And I think it was touched on the last meeting that there was no formal fee structure identified because you haven't identified the infrastructure costs. You don't have a basis for doing a levy on developers, but for a small place like Riverton, it's a huge, or anywhere that's small, if it's suddenly seeing the development, there's a huge burden going on the other ratepayers. So I think something's really needed rapidly. We certainly, as the community board, will support any. There's a couple of developers that were part of what I was talking about that are doing it on the sly. They get permission to develop some of these like mini cribs on a section of maybe and do 6 or 8 of them. But there's only one entrance in and out, so they only do one driveway from the street. There's no footpaths or anything. And then the next thing we'll be getting told we need a footpath here because there's this number of people now using this area and no payment. So whereas all the other developments have had they've actually put paths in and proper drainage and all that sort of thing. So it's a real problem with, it has to be part of what did they say in the their application for consent and I've not had any detail, and this is the difficulty of governance versus management. You know, we almost want to ask the management questions, if you like, and see, you know, what's done. Just like I said about the quote for the playground, we came up with a fairly thorough list of what we wanted to see in terms of equipment. So that was supplied, I understand, but I have yet to see the actual request for quote. And am I getting into the management area saying, hey, can we see what document council actually produced for request? And then can we see the quote that came back? But how can you misread a thing as much as that? Go figure. I have no idea.
Well, with respect, Michael, from a governance perspective, you know, certainly none of us would condone anything that's done on the sly. You know, everything has a process, right?
I wasn't meaning the council being involved.
Absolutely not, but let's say as an example of development.
Yeah.
You know, just as an example. So, you know, we are taking learnings from some other councils. So the Queenstown Housing Trust is an example. You know, they've got probably some similar pressures associated with what Riverton currently has and may be projected to have. So I suppose it's about asking the question around how do we solve some of these issues around levies or developer contributions to, I guess, account for some of the challenges that we're talking about. And if the developer is motivated, you have a willing seller, willing buyer, the council, through its governance streams, has the ability to be able to, you know, make that business occur under the right protocols, then there are ways and means of being able to sort this out, but there's probably a bit of work to be done yet. So.
And I think a lot of that actually comes back to that spatial planning and that town planning part where you actually can tie the development into an actual plan, which means you can actually do those levies towards feeding into something. So that sort of highlights that important kind of town planning part that has been mentioned a couple of times today already. Councillor Woodson.
That's right.
I'll go then Colin. Yes.
Well, just following up on, I guess, what Tom's referring to from the governance level. So the protocol, as I understand it, would be that council currently has a development and contributions financial policy, but it's currently in remission. So based on what we've heard today, we've heard about the need for spatial planning, some areas of development. Riverton's an example of the Beyond 25 plan identifying that the town of growth. I know there's issues around that developments and financial contributions in terms of how it works and what its legislative requirements are, and also everything needing to be based on growth capital projects as well, as far as I understand it. So there's obviously things to figure out, but is it, I guess, a direct question, is it fair to say that council should be re-looking at that development and financial contributions policy that's currently in remission? Is that?
I would think definitely it should be on the list.
On the list, good. Thanks.
Thanks, Ben. Colin.
You look on, you're agree, Mike, we got it, and it's no different than Winton, we roused out on that, with the new development. I think the cost of the infrastructure on here should go into the cost protections, and maybe the council should be looking at, I know overseas, cities, the council puts in the infrastructure and then get cost on developers. And that way you get a standard to what is put in there, and not just stuff with Queenstown in the 5 mile and up around there, but it's literally what's on here. And if you build a house, currently now, if you build a house out in the country, you have to put in your own driveway, your own repair, your own foot parking on your own storage, and you pay for it. Whereas these guys aren't paying for it. The rate paid, we shouldn't be funding up with that, the cost of the development.
So, Sarah.
You Roger. Yeah, just comments on that housing space. Just have a quick look back on the report that was produced. That compared to, it included figures for Tiana and Chancellor. And so what the interesting thing is, I think, for Riverton is that the short-term visitor accommodation makes up 7% of the stock. So imagine that's actually, there's a lot of ownership in Riverton that's actually in the hands of people from around south and
Yeah.
more externally.
Yeah.
That actually makes up the rest of it.
Which is true, yes.
Plus your static population of residents, which then is an interesting one in terms of that availability. What I would say is though that Theresa Cannon is such a good space. Particularly in terms of how we might move forward as a council, so I think we could watch this space to see what comes out of that, particularly in terms of development contributions and taking that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well when you look at not the summer just been, but the one before when empty homes got filled. It actually put a load on the water over that short summer period when everyone was all there at once. So it does show that the other side of those challenges from an infrastructure point of view as well. I've got Christine.
Thank you. Just a suggestion, the Chairs Forum, I don't know when the next one is due, but I wonder if it was a possibility that Theresa's out to attend and speak, given the interest across community boards.
Yeah, and we've got some common themes coming out now already to actually address with all the boards as well. That's a good suggestion. Yeah, Richard?
Just on those cameras, he was new when he brought up Blessing, Eric, and Riversdale, there's a fund you can apply through police, proceeds through crime. He was looking at getting Riversdale at both ends, but it didn't meet the criteria in the end, so, but there is a fund there set up for cameras.
Yeah, I've chased that a couple of times. So I don't know if we haven't got enough crime maybe. But yeah, no, it is worthwhile to listen to that.
I think it's here in that one.
Is it there or?
Look at that too.
Julie?
Excuse me. Thank you. The cameras, security cameras being required in Tokanoi was raised when a few locals got together and arranged a meeting and had that. Eric came and spoke of that and their proceeds of crime. So the message there is that actually we need to report everything that happens, the vandalism, the signs, the vandalism of the toilets, anything that's gone missing from your home, even or your yards or whatever, report it all, because it's the statistics that they follow through on that. If we want to get a share of the proceeds of crime thing, we need to be reporting everything to actually show that there's an issue.
And that's one thing as well with that reporting side of it, because talking to the local police in Lumsden over the toilets, they were asking, like, has every instance actually been reported? Because quite often they will have found a car at 3 o'clock in the morning doing something somewhere else. And if they don't know that the toilets are vandalised that night as well, so they can sometimes piece things together as well. So it is important to do that reporting side of it.
That's what they said. It might seem small, but it's the piece of the jigsaw that they need to actually be able to know something. So,
Christine?
thank you. And just a follow-up question from your comments. The high rate of vandalism of our roadsides that seems to be occurring in the weekends and the increasing amount of that, do we report to the police every incident of that occurring?
I hope so, but yeah, I don't know if there's anyone in the room that can probably answer it, but it's probably worth double checking that we do that, because I think it's important. And I think the roading contractors that go out and do it would be the ones to talk to as well.
Yes, and presumably you need a vehicle with bull bars on it to avoid damaging your own vehicle when they're being driven into, as it seems to be the case on most occasions.
Yeah, well, the signs that I looked at 18 months ago, you could actually see where the vehicle had actually driven right up onto it and the bull bar marks on the sign, so they were intentionally driving at it to knock it down. And yeah, like I say, it wouldn't be bull bars, otherwise you damage your vehicle. But
if we look at some programs like CSI, they'll be able to go the process it through.
Yeah, the fire trucks were quite much.
So, sorry, through, okay.
I'll just let Brad go first.
Yeah, just in relation to that, some years ago, like 30 years ago in Wanaka, between Brumble and Wanaka, the contractor was having a great deal of trouble with the signs and all your road markers being demolished. And they went along and drove great big steel Waratahs behind them. And then on the Monday morning, went to the local panel meter shop to see who needed a new radiator or radiator repairs. And in a matter of weeks, the problem ceased. They'll probably these days be done for vandalism or something as well. But it certainly solved the problem up there.
Yeah, once again, just along the same thread, really, just sometimes our local police are under pressure as well with regards to having these things reported is fine, but they are under quite a lot of pressure at times, and sometimes these things can take a long time to get through the pipeline. So I don't know whether or not it's appropriate for the community at large to report these things through things like our antenna app or directly to council via the website. Would that be a sort of a bit of a thing that we should encourage?
Well, it's a good avenue. I mean, if you see a sign that's down, I mean, that's the either antenna or the RFS to the website. It's a good way to actually get that knowledge of it, and that can trigger stuff as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just a further comment, I think that I'm not sure the public are aware, it's something like approximately $90 a sign for the repair. And if we look at how many there've been for the last month, it's a substantial amount that then comes back through the rates as a charge.
Yeah, I think South Roads every Monday morning, it probably takes up most of his day on Monday driving around, putting the new poles up and erecting all the new signs. So yeah, not ideal. Oh, well, that's rounded off a very, very good session. I always brag about the value of having 69 elected members and having the value of our board chairs come along to these meetings as well. It's invaluable, the addition that you provide. So yeah, appreciate you taking the time out of your good days as well to come along and share with us what's happening in your little patches of paradise. It's really great to hear it. Just before I move on to the report, I just wanted to talk about something that came out at the conference I was at last week through Brad Olsen from Infometrics, who's been doing a bit of work on behalf of local government New Zealand. And we've quite often seen the graphs of the funding differentials between taxpayer dollar and ratepayer dollar, with one bar being way up here and the local government one being way down here. And he did some work and he found out that the average New Zealand, so this is for a New Zealand household on average, tax paid is $37,000. And the average New Zealand rates bill paid is $2,800. So it kind of shows that 90 to 10, well, even more, so 92 to 8% kind of split in that funding differential. And when we're talking about all these things, the playgrounds and the cameras and the roading, and if you look at the vast amount of services that we provide in local government for our communities, with such a small percentage of that tax take, it really does highlight what Bruce Robertson wisely said one day. We don't actually have, I can't remember what he referred to, but we said we've got a funding problem basically in terms of providing for our communities, and we've got this very blunt mechanism of rates to try and address all of these needs that we have in our communities. When they're paying quite a big percentage of their income that comes out of their pay every week into this tax without too much. They've got a lot of control and say in everything that we provide for our consultation processes. We talked about consultation today and how open our system is, whereas the income tax that you pay sort of goes out of your pay and disappears, and you don't get too much say in where that goes. So it's sitting in the back of my mind, that kind of inequity of how that all happens, and I guess the importance of, as a sector, us highlighting that to the government and trying to get some relinquished control over all of that funding. So if we could have a bit more access to that, not that we would waste it on $4.5 million playgrounds, but we'd actually be able to spend it really efficiently with the good examples that we've got of the community-led stuff. Like if we had access to more of that tax take, I think we could do a whole lot more with it. So yeah, just an observation that I had that I've been thinking quite a lot on in the back of my mind in terms of our upcoming conversations with long-term plan and rates numbers and all of that fun stuff. So on that note, I will move from the chair that we received from the news report. So I have the seconder, Councillor Spraggan. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against, leave the room. That's carried. Thank you. Okay, so we've got now a financial report for the period ending 29th of April. I'm just gonna double check that Derek didn't have his hand up because I can't see him, but it looks like he doesn't. Cool. And I'll hand over to Anne. So this is on page 35 of your agenda.
Your worship, councillors. Well, in all due respect to my fellow finance team, I don't think I've ever sat beside such distinguished characters of my financial report. And I'm sure that my finance team is sitting right now on the other end going, geez, Anne, you're going to get a hard time when you come back. Hopefully you've got muffins. So, yeah. So hopefully they'll be able to support all the queries that you have today. Just in terms of the report, of course, we're presenting here the report for the 29th of February 2024. The key areas in our income, you'll see that the 8-month period we've got about $2.5 million above projection. The principal reasons for that is that much more land sale, which accounts for 1.8 million of it, and also the additional interest that we've been receiving this year compared to budget. On our investments that we have had in. Of course, those are bank investments. Just as a bit of an update for where we're at in terms of putting our money into our providers of Milford and Westpac. The paperwork is all away. They are currently creating the accounts for those. We are also programmed in to receive funds on the 1st of May to start that investment process. I'm going to have a report coming up to the June, I can't remember, Finance and Insurance Committee, just around the investments and what's going forward. And depending on time, what I'm also going to hope to do is also just program in some of our investment providers just come along and have a chat about where things are sitting at right now and what's happening in that space. So that's where we're at currently with that. In terms of our operating expenditure, you'll see there's some ups and downs, but on par, we're pretty much on track with that. In terms of our capital expenditure at this point in time, we're about 3.3 million under. The two major reasons for that is the Riversdale upgrade in our sewage, which has been commissioned, so we're expecting the last of those costs to come through shortly, if they're not already sitting in there to be paid for our April creditors run. We've also got community resources, which is sitting about $1 million currently under. There's just some delays and some playgrounds there at present, but we've got Horses True Bay tracks in progress right now, and we've got some CASA works also that's in progress. We will, of course, be giving you an update about where we're at in terms of those projects as part of our quarterly. That is also going to your meeting on the 24th, which will be next week at this stage, Finance and Insurance Committee. So we'll give you some more updated information on that. Otherwise, yeah, I'll open it out for questions.
Thank you, Anne. Good detailed report as always. Do we have any questions from the floor? Councillor Mendes?
Thank you. You may not be able to answer this question, but just under community resources, where it talks about community housing income is under projection by 47,000. And the cause of that is the 2 vacant units, which I think we've had a report about last year, and presumably we're not in a position to make a decision around those 2 units. Is the total under projection figure just due to those 2 vacant units? Because that would suggest the rentals, what, 23,500 each that we're missing out on, or are there other elements?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but I will go back and find out. I would say there are other factors in there as well.
Right.
But those would be the 2 probably the key factor. But I will go back and get some more analysis on that.
And then secondly, when can we expect a report or further information back on those 2 vacant units with respect to making a decision?
Is that something that you want to answer?
We are working in the team to develop a scope to repair both of the units at a lesser cost than the $300,000 that was initially presented to council. So it is underway. I would say it'll be approximately a month before we come back to council with a revised scope for that work.
Thank you for that and for the information that you use. I think one is in the Edendale area.
That's correct. The ones in the hotel.
Thank you.
I've got Councillor Duffy.
Oh, my question's been answered.
Cool, thank you. Councillor Baker,
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for the report. Looking at the external borrowings, 21.8 million from LGFA. I see the interest rate has gone up, even within those 5 days in April, from 5.47 to 5.48 to 5.97%. What is the differential now between borrowing from LGFA and open market?
Well, it always depends on the term in which you're borrowing. The thing about LGFA, of course, is that we can borrow for long periods of time, which we can't do with the banks. So in terms of the interest rates, I haven't done a comparison at this point in time, but yeah, I haven't looked, to be honest, I haven't done that comparison at this point. So it depends. Right now, I can borrow over 4 years for 5.3% at a fixed rate.
From the bank?
No, from LGFA, and it varies up and down from that.
that 21 million will be fixed interest rate from the time of when we borrowed though, wouldn't it?
3 of them are fixed on that sheet.
Yeah.
So the 5.48 of the 3.5 million is fixed, the 1.5 is a floater.
Yeah.
And the 8.4 and the 8.4 are both fixed. And of course that fits in with our investment and liability policy, which is requiring us to have both a mixture of fixed and floating. I'm just, for our creditors this month, I'm just requesting $4 million. I put that on the floating because we're going to be getting quite a lot of potentially some fixed coming through over the next few months. We're going to go into a very large borrowing process, I can imagine, over the next sort of 3 months or so.
Thank you. And just to follow that, but that's probably where my question was geared, because we have, even over the next few months and the years to follow, there's going to be a lot more debts that's going to be coming on council. And how much will the differential have? So bearing on where we borrow from?
Yeah, so in the past, we were, there was always generally a differential of at least 1%.
Yeah.
So that we continue to work on.
And if that changes, if there's not much, would then the only consideration remain the term?
Yeah, the term is after that. So I mean, I can go back to Westpac and ask them to give us another quote on borrowings. So which, because you're not loaded with LGFA. But at this stage, I would still find that you'll have the LGFA percentages will be much better. But we can definitely, as part of the investment level.
Yes, just for our assurance. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Councillor O'Brien, did you have a question?
No.
Councillor Wilson?
Thanks, and the Milford and Westpac investment, thanks for the update on that. From memory, that was it May last year that investment
Yeah, so
resolution got made?
Yeah, we talked about it in May last year. Yeah.
So, and it was gonna be, was it 4 quarterly tranches?
No, 8.
8 tranches.
You decided to go over 8 quarterly tranches.
So was it intended that it would be 11 months for the first tranche to get?
No, but we did talk about it back in November. We noticed then that the returns on our investments would have been not that great.
Yeah.
So we definitely was slowed down. The choice you've got now, of course, and what I'll bring up to you in June is whether you want to put 3 instalments in that one instead of just the one.
So is there any indication from May last year for making that decision for the first tranche to it happening coming up now, that first resolution still stands? Has the environment changed that much?
Yes, the environment has changed. So I would have said in those first 6 months, we weren't getting the returns that we would have liked.
Yeah.
Of course, in the last 3 months, it's still volatile, but the returns have definitely bounced back now.
So they're in a better position now?
Yes, they were in a better position.
Thanks for this.
Thank you, Councillor Byers.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Andy. That massive increase in borrowing that you're talking about over the next 3 months, is that to fund this share purchase portfolio?
The monies that we're drawing down will be repaying our internal loans, current portfolio, because we've been borrowing against the reserves that we've been holding to fund our activities. So we're repaying those back and then implementing council's decision to invest in an external provider to get better returns to offset rates. So money will be coming in and paying those loans, and then we'll put that back up those investment loans.
So we are borrowing to investment.
I think that once again, it's a useful question, that we need to be very clear on.
All right, so those two sums, 8.4 and 8.4, maturity date 36 and 35. Do we set aside money to pay those loans back on the maturity date?
Yes, we do.
And where does that money sit while it's been?
So it's gonna be sitting in our reserves. And effectively, it'll be funded, it'll be invested as well. So the decision that you'll have coming up is whether you want to invest it as part of the investment portfolio, or whether you want to do something else with it.
So it sounds like that'll be sitting in the share market as well then.
So it's a choice of the council what it actually wants to do with that at the end of the day. Because right now you've got a policy that says that unrestricted reserves will be invested as part of Milford and Westpac investments, and restricted reserves will actually be held in cash investments, which would be potentially with the bank. I guess the question that we have to come back and decide is what is restricted and what is unrestricted. So at this point, I don't have too much of a problem in terms of that money, but going forward, once you fully implement it, you will. So that will be part of decision making.
And that'll come up through one of the upcoming FNA.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We can make this. We can decide to come forward.
If there's no further questions, sorry, Councillor Wilson.
Just one last question, just in light of today's conversations. The $1 million or so of development and financial contributions, is that a figure that has the potential of expiration of use for those
Yep,
contributions?
so we're constantly exploring the use of that. So it's broken down as many of you know from your community board reports into various sectors. So there's parks and reserves in there, there's roading contributions, so probably the two really only now that we've got. I think we're pretty exhausted now, so original water. So the roading ones, of course, are very particular to specific areas. In terms of the parks and reserves, yeah, it's that ongoing discussion around trying to find growth projects that's in the communities to speak that on.
Cool. So on that note, is someone in a position to move that we receive the report, financial report period ending 29th of February? Councillor Menzies, seconded by Councillor Keys. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anybody against? That is carried. And on that note, I will thank everyone for their attendance. It's a wonderful place, and I'll declare the meeting closed. And